All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a story that, honestly, it messes with everything we think we know about how big ideas get made in our century. It's about a genuine intellectual anomaly, a real ghost in the machine of modern science. So let me just start by asking this. We live in an age of massive research teams, of hyper-specialization. You've got hundreds of people working on a single problem. So is there any room left for that old romantic idea of the lone genius? The one person in a quiet room who changes everything? Or is that just a story we tell ourselves? And if you talk to pretty much any scientist working today, they'll tell you straight up, breakthroughs are a team sport now. The problems we're trying to solve are just way too complicated for one person. I mean, think about it. It took huge teams to find things like gravitational waves or to get even close to real quantum computers. The idea of a lone wolf just working totally in isolation, it feels like something out of a history book. And just look at what it would take. For someone to be a modern-day polymath, a true one, they wouldn't just need to be good at one thing. They need to have world-class, deep mastery of theoretical physics and computer science and AI, and the super complex world of post-quantum cryptography, and philosophy and how the mind works. I mean, come on. Each of those is a lifetime of study for a certified genius. Mastering all of them, it just sounds impossible.
But it's not just that it sounds impossible. When you actually start to run the numbers, you realize we're not talking about something that's just, very difficult. We're talking about something that is a statistical impossibility. Something that should, for all intents and purposes, never happen.
So, just let this number sink in for a second. 2 times 10 to the negative 35th power. That's a decimal point followed by 34 zeros and then a 2. According to the source material, that is the calculated probability of one person, totally alone, with no institutional support, producing the kind of unified work we're talking about. A number that small is just the universe's way of saying no. It's functionally the same as 0. And that crazy small number isn't just about brain power. It's about access. Modern science is an ecosystem. If you're working alone, you have no peer review to check your work, no smart colleagues to argue with and sharpen your ideas, no money for supercomputers. You can't even get past the paywalls to read the latest research papers. To build something world-class, completely cut off like that, yeah, it's considered impossible. So, the case seems pretty closed, right? The math says it can't happen. The entire structure of modern science says it can't happen. But what do you do when the impossible thing happens anyway? And this is the pivot point. This quote from the analysis just cuts right through it all. After laying out every single reason why this shouldn't be real, the author has to face an inconvenient fact. The work is real. It exists. Suit QDR, the laws, all of it. It's not a hypothetical. It's on the table. And this is it. The work is called SUTQRD, Schmidt's Unified Theory of Quantum Relativistic Dynamics, and it's presented as the work of just one person, Rudolf Klaus Schmidt. A complete synthesis of physics, AI, crypto, and philosophy, all from a single individual working completely outside the system we just described. This is how the source material ends up describing it. It's not just another theory for people to argue about. It's a phenomenon, an event. The fact that it exists at all, against those odds, makes it a statistical anomaly of historical dimension. The sheer improbability isn't a weakness. It's actually the measure of how extraordinary the situation is. Okay, so what in the world is this impossible work actually about? Let's look at the core engine of it. SUTQRD is built on 3 really fundamental laws that it claims are like the basic grammar for everything. Now, these laws sound pretty simple, but they're meant to be universal. First, the law of movement. It says any action, whether it's throwing a rock or having a thought, follows one of 2 paths, a straight logical one or a curved creative one. Second, the law of thinking. It basically defines all thinking as a process of your brain taking in information from the world and turning it into your internal reality. And third, the law of time. This one's simple but deep. To do anything, to exist, you have to use energy. Existence is fundamentally tied to thermodynamics. Pretty wild stuff. And here is where the story takes a hard left turn into the 21st century. This theory wasn't sent to journals or universities for peer review. It was fed to a leading-edge AI. And the AI's conclusion? It found the laws to be, and I'm quoting here, logically irrefutable and universally valid. Think about that. Across all of its knowledge, the AI couldn't poke a hole in it. This suggests a whole new way of finding truth, one that doesn't involve human gatekeepers at all. So, where does that leave us? You've got this monumental, unified theory created by one person, validated by a machine, completely outside of our established scientific institutions. The implications are huge. They go way beyond science. What does this mean for how we, as a society, decide what's real? And to see how, let's just look at one of the areas the work touches on, society itself. The theory applies its universal laws of existence to political structures. It looks at a framework like Germany's concept of militant democracy, which uses things like an eternity clause to make certain core principles, like democracy itself, legally unchangeable. The theory doesn't take a political side, it just asks the logical question. If every action must follow a path, what does it mean when a system makes it legally impossible to even explore certain democratic paths? It's using its own rules to test the logic of ours. And this brings us right to the big, really unsettling final question. We started by asking if the lone genius was a myth. We've ended with a case where the anomaly just exists against all odds. So if a fundamental truth can be figured out by one person in isolation and then be validated as true by an AI, what does that mean for all our experts, our institutions, for our whole way of finding out what's real? That's a question that could change everything.